Hi everyone, my name is Camilla Knight. I'm an emeritus professor at Swansea University, as well as a professor at the University of Agder in Norway, and the Director of Impact, Innovation and Engagement for Greenhouse Sports. I'm delighted to have a chance to join you just to very briefly talk to you about parents in sport and just why parents are so important. Over the last 20 years, I have dedicated all of my working time, my research time, to understanding this topic, which started back in 2006, where I was interested in understanding the experience of parents who had children involved in sport. And over that time, I have conducted numerous studies with young people, with parents, with coaches, with organizations to really think about, how we can optimize parents' involvement in sport, how we can make sure that parents are involved in the very best ways so that young people can have the most positive and enjoyable experiences. When I first started researching in this area in 2006, there wasn't much attention paid to parents. And in fact, mostly consideration of parents was just pushing them to the side, thinking that when children entered into sports, they became the responsibility of the coach, and that parents really should just stay on the sidelines and not interfere. When I first came into this space, this idea that parents shouldn't be involved was really tricky for me to get my head around, because we absolutely need parents to be involved. And over the last 20 years, there's been a big shift in our understanding of that. And it's why I've always been delighted that the Child Protection in Sport unit has really paid attention to parents and understood just how vital parents are in ensuring that young people have safe and enjoyable experiences. Over the next few minutes, I thought I'd just share a few kind of hints and tips and a little bit about what the research tells us. Well, first and foremost, as I've already alluded to, the research consistently shows us that the parents are absolutely vital parts of young people's sporting journeys. We cannot have youth sport in the way that it's currently structured, at least, without parents. It sounds like, it feels like we should be able to say, well, if parents do this, then this will be good and children will have positive experiences. And if parents avoid this, then that will be important and young people will have better experiences. The research doesn't consistently show that. Now, obviously, there is absolutely a line that parents cannot cross. When we're talking about abuse, if we're talking about emotional abuse or physical abuse, we absolutely do not have a place for that within sport. And so, there is absolutely a line that we do not want to see being crossed. But when it comes to how you might demonstrate support, whether you would be silent on a sideline or clapping on a sideline or cheering, it's not quite as neat and tidy as we might like to think. And that's because what we know from the research and what we consistently see from the research is that young people like different things from their parents. Some children just like their parents to be present. They just like to know that they're there in their corner, whatever happens. Others like them to be cheering. Others like them to be positively responding to the types of things that they're doing. Other children don't like their parents there at all. They maybe feel that it's a bit of pressure to try and perform in front of their parent. Yeah. And so what's really important here, especially when we think about competitions, is that young people and parents need to understand what they want from each other. And so actually, it's not as easy as saying, these are the good things to do and these are the bad things to do. It's about saying, you need to understand your child and your child needs to understand you. And the most important thing to make sure that parents are involved in the most positive ways is for parents and children to regularly communicate, to regularly chat together. And we need to be in a situation where parents can adapt their behaviours based on what their children are saying so that they can continue to progress. And that type of support, that kind of what we would call responsive support from a parent, where they're demonstrating to their child that they understand them, that they're demonstrating to their child that they care about them, they care about what's important, and that they're understanding they value what the child is saying, that's been associated with all sorts of positive outcomes from young people. Higher levels of thriving, positive self-esteem, positive self-efficacy, all these things that we know are really good for young people, both to progress and to enjoy their sporting experience, but also more broadly outside of sport. Just one thing that's also important to remember is it's not just what parents do at competitions which has an impact. And it's really easy, especially if we're a coach or an organization, to get focused on, the parent behavior at the competition, because that's what we see. You see that, you observe that, you can get the headlines about the parents who are getting it wrong or the parents who are doing a great job. But that's just a small proportion of the interactions that occur around sport. And actually, it's important as organizations and coaches that we help parents to think about how they might be engaging before competitions, after competitions, in relation to training, and in that general home environment. So research that we've conducted with young people typically shows that in the home environment, not too much conversation around sport is typically preferable, but again, it varies between children. Then when it comes to training, often young people quite like having some training time to themselves. This can be an opportunity for them to take a bit of ownership, to not feel that their parent is always there and always watching them, but at the same time their parents having a little bit of knowledge about what's happening in training and being present for some of that, and then being able to communicate with their child about what they're doing is really important. But that can only happen if, as I again alluded to earlier, coaches talk to parents. So one of the old kind of arguments for parents not being kept in the loop, or coaches trying to suggest that parents shouldn't interfere, was this idea that parents would say the wrong things, that parents would maybe give conflicting messages, that they interfere and they get in the way of coaches. But the challenge with that is, as a parent, I want to talk to my child. I want to talk to them about things that are important to them. And the research consistently shows that children typically like their parents talking to them about their sport, around training settings, around competition settings, although tailored to the sort of specific requirements of that child. But I can't, as a parent, have a really beneficial conversation with my child if I don't know what they've been working on, if I don't know anything about the sport, if I don't know what the goals are, what the tactics were, what they were trying to do in that competition. And so a lot of the problems that emerged around parenting actually came because we tried to keep them on the sidelines, because we didn't involve them, because we didn't give them any information to give them the insights to have positive conversations. And so that's something that's really important. As a coach, if you can work really well with parents, if you can keep them in the loop, if you can help them to understand what the aims are for the season, what the expectations are, how we're kind of encouraging behaviors, how we're like tracking different goals, different progress over the season, then the parents can reinforce those messages. They can have those positive conversations. They can help support what coaches are doing. But if we don't tell parents anything, they're likely to have conversations that we don't want, or talk about things that aren't important. So it's not just competitions, it's what happens at home, it's what happens around training. It's about parents tailoring their behaviors to the specific needs of their child, but it's also about coaches making sure that parents can be involved in positive ways by giving them some guidance and giving them some suggestions. And if we can do all of those things, which may be summarized in 5 minutes, seem relatively simple, but are quite complicated, we will be in a position where parents can be involved really positively. We will be in a position where parents are able to engage in the types of behaviors that young people like, and in the most possible positive ways. Just one thing I will end on, though, is that I'll often get pushback around that statement. I'll get pushback or a suggestion that I'm oversimplifying it, that, we have these really troublesome parents, and parents who don't want to engage, who aren't having positive experiences. My response to that is actually we create environments that overly value winning, that place too much pressure on young people to go out to perform, that create these really emotionally charged environments. And that puts pressure on parents. It's really hard to be in environments where you see your children getting upset, where you know that they're kind of being judged for winning or losing. So the first thing that we need to do, if we are really interested in trying to help parents be involved in positive ways and try and help young people to have the most positive sporting experiences, is to consider the behavior of everyone involved and consider the environments that we're creating. What are we celebrating? What are we rewarding? What are we encouraging? Are we creating an environment that focuses on development first, that rewards young people for displaying positive behaviors, which recognizes their growth as whole people, in terms of life skills, psychosocial skills, social skills, all of those types of things, that goes far beyond just whether you won or lost and whether you went on and achieved at a high level. If we can consider that environment and then take those parent behaviors that I talked about before, we're going to create a much more positive environment for young people to be involved. And that is 20 odd years of research summarised there. If anyone would like any further information or, more specific guidance or advice, please feel free to contact me.